Alright. Everyone back? Boleh tolong tutup pintu tak? Thank you. Okay, welcome back. Sini makan pagi, petang, siang, malam. Oh, ya. Makan malam. Boleh tak juga lah, boleh lah. Dah, tidak ada. Okay, so we got one more module to go. So actually kita dah cover hari CE semua dah done, yeah. So we've covered. So I think the bulk of it we've done, but there is this one last module, a bit of a recap lah, yeah, a bit of a recap, and I'll touch a bit about some human factors. We call it human factors about hazard identification. Yeah. So we've spoken about ways to identify hazard dalam the last 1.5 days. PEMAP, I think is the one that we spent a lot of time on lah. Yeah, I think to me, if you all tak tahu nak start ke mana, guna PEMAP. Yeah, guna RACE. Yeah, at least you ada structure. If along over the years you find something better, tak apa. But penting you ada structure. Yeah, so RACE, PEMAP gives you some structure on how to organize your thoughts for hazard identification and management. Yeah, but you can also, like we discussed, hazard ni can be identified through various ways. And I personally memang always like to go to site to find and identify hazards. Why that's the case? Because kadang-kadang kita kena tolong orang yang bekerja. Because bila orang bekerja, dia fokus on doing their work. So as much as they try, dia what we call dia ada macam tunnel vision. Dia fokus nak buat kerja dia. Dia ada time schedule, quality schedule, you know. Nak tak nak, that is the reality lah kan. Dia orang ada limits, not limits, dia ada dia punya fokus ya. Yeah? So I'm not saying that they don't focus on safety. I'm sure they focus juga. But sometimes you need an external party to bring in different views yang mungkin tak involved in detail with the work, yang tengok the issue with a different perspective. Yeah? So when I go to site and look at work, I come in and look at kerja-kerja yang team lain buat, ya, yang saya tak involved in planning, because you bring in a perspective yang diorang mungkin tak tengok, tak dapat tengok, ya. So that's why field surveys is good, not only to look at your work, but I will also encourage you to help each other out. Plan 1, plan 2, you know, kadang-kadang you tolong plan sebelah, ya. Kenapa you buat kerja macam ni? Oh, kita dah biasa kat sini, tapi kat plan ni kita buat cara lain yang lagi bagus. You know, so you can share practices, ya. So field surveys cross departments, across team is always very good, yeah, because you learn from each other better. Yeah. Behavior observations. Today, last 2 days we speak a lot about methods, about tools, about how to do things. But at the end of the day, it will only work if the behavior is right. Yeah, you are consciously looking out for hazards. You're not complacent with risk. Yeah, so that is important, and I think that is something that we have to make sure that we are in the right space, yeah. And also, if we see people around us that may need help, may need to be intervened upon, may need to be helped, supported, or coached, then our role is to do that lah. Yeah? Because I can tell you, if orang tu tak look out for hazard, kadang tak perasan pun, ya, jalan sebelah pun tak perasan, because you're not looking out for it. Hazard requires you, like I mentioned yesterday, you have to be situationally aware. Kan yesterday I show one chart about situational awareness kan. So the mode that you must be in is macam bawa kereta lah. You are always scanning for hazards. You tak adalah macam orang kata apa, perah kepala cari hazard, but you are always scanning kan. Tapi kalau kerja tu is more serious, more risky, then you behave as if you're driving in heavy rain. You still proceed, but you are more careful, you are more cautious, yeah? So that's the space where you need to be when it comes to behavior. Yeah? Be situationally aware, then only you will find stuff. If you're not situationally aware, you won't find stuff. There is this term orang panggil, I don't know you've heard or not, dia panggil chronic unease. Chronic unease ni is a feeling that something can happen. Because if you have the mindset that ni takkan jadi kat tempat aku, tak ada masalah, ya, then of course you are complacent. But if you have this chronic unease that if I'm not careful, something can happen. And if you have that mindset and behavior, you are more vigilant on issues and challenges dekat site, and you are more likely to find hazards. So this what we call chronic unease is that dalam hati ni rasa macam kalau aku tak jaga-jaga ni nothing happen, you know. So that mindset is important. Kalau your mindset is ni takkan jadi kat tempat kita, tak ada masalah, then memang something can happen lah because your mindset dah complacent, yeah. So that's important. Behavior is very important. For newer people or people yang tak biasa dengan going to site and so on, having checklist will help. Macam saya masa mula-mula dulu nak audit confined space lah, baru kan dulu, ada checklist, kita belajar, and at least ada guidance. Nak audit checklist, nak audit confined space macam mana, nak tengok hotwork macam mana, you know. Once you dah tahu, then tak apalah, you dah tengok apa you can find kan. But untuk orang yang baru belajar, yang maybe belum lagi that much experience, checklist is there's no harm using checklist, is good, yeah. Because it gives you structure. If you have your own checklist in OSIM, pakai. Kalau tak ada, online banyak ada yang you can Google and find. Memang ada banyak, ya. So that helps you when you do certain things, when you either planning ke, you go to site and observe, that checklist will help you, ya. Can do for hot work, confined space, loto, semua ada checklist, semua dah ada. Bukannya tak payah nak start from fresh, ya. So that is helpful. Pre-job, kita dah talk about it. Tadi pun you all dah buat exercise on GSA or PTA kan. So that is a tool that I think you're using, PTA kan. So PTA lebih kurang tak sama tak macam GSA tu? Lebih kurang kan, ya. So I think that's a good tool, continue to use it. You must use it for non-routine jobs. For routine jobs, I always encourage for routine jobs, tapi kalau kerja tu high risk, you still use it. But sekarang some companies bila routine job, mereka buat GSA langsung, atau PTA langsung. But to me, if it's a routine but high risk, you should still do PTA. Yeah. So don't be complacent that routine tu tak jadi apa-apa. Routine, kadang-kadang routine yang high risk tu yang jadi. Because tak routine kita we are very careful. Tapi bila routine kita dah macam ini dah biasa buat dah, so kita complacent sikit. So tapi routine and high risk you should still do PTA, yeah, because the things can still happen. GSA kita dah bincang macam PTA. Pre-job planning. So pre-job planning is different than PTA. If you recall dalam GSA form yang tadi tu, dia ada work steps kan. So work steps ni, by right before you do the PTA, you dah ada your maintenance ke contractor dah ada work step. Dah ada work step dia, because dia dah plan the job. So masa you buat PTA or GSA ni, you ambil work step daripada maintenance ke daripada contractor, then you put dalam GSA, then you discuss the hazard. So bukannya operation or safety yang kena define work step. The people doing the work must define work step, and they have to give that input to you when you do PTA or GSA, yeah. Kalau dia tak, if they don't have the work step, maknanya dia tak plan nak buat kerja, bahaya. How do you make things safe if you don't plan how to do work kan? So they have to plan the work, they have to know what their steps are, baru you can assess the hazard. If they say, oh kita tak ada work step lagi, or tak ada method statement, then you should challenge, how do you do work safely if you have not planned for it kan? Because if you don't plan for it, they may not bring the right tools, yeah, to do work. And orang akan buat funny stuff, guna tool yang tak apa-apa kan. So itu yang jadi kalau tak plan, orang guna tool yang tak betul, equipment yang tak betul, you know. Grinder size salah, grinder material salah, grinder, you know, wheel grinder punya pecah kan, pakai benda salah, yeah? So planning is very important. Ad hoc risk assessment. So kadang-kadang things change. We spoke just now is katakan example kalau work procedure tiba-tiba kena tukar kan. So if things change and that happens in reality, take a step back and do an ad hoc risk assessment, yeah? You still need to know what hazards those change bring and address those risks. Doesn't matter like the change is brought about by your boss ke, your supervisor ke, your colleague ke. Doesn't matter siapa bring it up, the hazard may still be there, doesn't matter kan. So you need to understand what it is and address the hazard. Doesn't mean you don't do it, but you have to assess it first, yeah. So but I know it's like I said, it's not as easy sometimes like kan, especially if your boss asks you to do lah, yeah, but you still do that assessment. Incident investigation also, like I mentioned, is one way that you can use to identify hazards, because if an accident has occurred, that means hazard has gone unidentified or hazard was not controlled properly, yeah? So I always tell people that yes, incidents are bad, but you should learn from incidents. And I always tell people, jangan saja, don't only learn from incidents internally. Do you also learn from incidents outside? Kan? Yeah, so other companies in OSIM, ada OSIM ada site lain kan, learn from other sites, learn from other companies in Malaysia. Online pun banyak macam video-video saya tunjuk ni pun banyak ada online, you can learn from those as well, yeah. So there's a lot of learning opportunities that you can take, not only internally but outside. Because ideally, how you should look at it is you want to learn about these things before they happen to you, kan? So and the only way you can do that is to learn from outside. Kalau learn from inside, you akan learn from apa yang dah pernah jadi je. You tak learn from apa yang belum jadi. So the only way you can learn from apa yang belum jadi is to look at what has happened outside before. Yeah, so that's why learning from outside is very important. Yeah. High in Malaysia legally high rank kena ada lah. Yeah. So you should have that already. So that's another reference that you can look at. But again, high rank kadang-kadang bila orang buat pasal legal requirement, orang takut orang buat tak detail. Saya kata ni legal requirement kan. So dia buat sekadar cukup je. But do have a look. If yours is good, that's fine. But I've seen some is very simple lah, tak cukup detail. Yeah. But if it's there, you can use it. Siapa pernah dengar CHRA? Pernah dengar ni kan? CHRA is Chemical Health Risk Assessment. Kalau this is again a tool that legally DOSH asks us to do. Yeah. So when you are introducing a new chemical to site, yeah, a new chemical. Katakanlah all this while you guna chemical A, tiba-tiba you nak bawa chemical B, yeah. So that new chemical, when you introduce new to the site, will bring new hazards. That it could be the same hazard, but it may bring new hazards. We don't know. So as part of bringing in a new chemical, you must always do a chemical health risk assessment to make sure, okay, this chemical baru ni apa impact dia kepada people, environment, so that you can then identify the hazard and then control the hazard. So all new chemicals kena buat, yeah. And sometimes, at times the vendor dah ada information yang kena pakai, but in the plant you kena buat. Normally yang biasa buat ni is safety, safety lah biasa, environment kena buat lah. Chemical baru kan, you don't know what happens. Yeah? So what you
How about radioactive material?
Radioactive material, you dalam your plant ada tak radioactive, they call it licensed person? I forgot the name.
Yes.
Ada kan? I'm sure ada kan? So by right they should have done appropriate assessment lah. I don't know, RPS betul. They should have done the assessment before they bring it in. Yeah. Tapi CHRA ini, so your point, where you are from, because you are in operations kan. So if you see someone bringing in new chemical, you ask, okay, dah ada CHRA tak? Can I see that? Understand what's the hazard kan? Because you pun nak tahu ni chemical ni apa, ni hazard kan? So SDS should give you information, but SDS doesn't tell you how to operationalize the control at your site. It's very general kan? So what controls you need on your site, normally CHRA akan tell you. Yeah? That's specifically for chemical health, more for health. In particular, bila it's long-term health impact, CHRA will look at it more detail lah. Yeah. So that's another one you should look at. HAZOP. Kita dah bincang sikit pasal HAZOP. But what I am sensing is it's not something that you commonly get involved in lah, kan? Tapi I would say safety should be involved. You all ada process safety team kah? Dia sekali dengan safety kan? Is it? Process safety. Process safety ya?
Boss.
Another section, safety, environment and improvement.
Okay, tak cakap. So, dia expert lah kiranya.
Ya.
Okay, tak apa. So, HAZOP ni is very important for process safety in particular. Yeah? High rank more for occupational safety, HAZOP for process safety. So whenever you have the chance, please join lah HAZOP. So HAZOP, you will see why you need safety valve, why you need trips, why you need alarms. Yeah? High-Rec takkan tell you all that. High-Rec takkan cakap alarm, takkan cakap safety valve, takkan cakap pasal all this. PTA pun takkan cakap semua tu kan. Why you need all that, you will only find out when you see in HAZOPs. Yeah? So then you understand kenapa sini ada safety valve and so on when you join HAZOPs. Yeah? Alright, so that's a very quick recap lah, yeah, ways to identify hazards. Yeah. But I want to go in a bit deeper into human factors, behavioural factors, yeah, because that's an element that kita belajar macam mana pun, if we're not at the right mindset, don't have the right behaviour, kita takkan dapat nampak hazards and manage. Yeah. I think kita semua manusia lah kan, ya, termasuk saya sekali. So as humans we are not perfect, ya. Bagaimana kita cuba, how hard we try pun, we have unreliability, you know. Kadang-kadang kita penat, kadang kita dah kerja malam tadi tu lewat, so we a bit tired today kan. So that's humans, that's how we are, including myself. So no one is perfect. We are unpredictable, you know, our moods may change. Malam tadi kena marah dengan isteri for whatever reason, you know, pagi ni mood lain sikit. We may make errors, you know. So that is what makes us human lah, ya. The main thing is we try out to do our best, but that is what happens. And in the nature of our job, there is no way we can eliminate humans from operating the plant. Kita belum lagi sampai tahap yang plant tu boleh run 100% tanpa orang, ya. Tapi ada yang dah boleh, tapi generally manufacturing plant macam you all ni belum sampai tahap tu fully lagi lah, ya? Getting there eventually, but not yet at this time, ya. So humans like us will continue to be part of plant operations, and as long as we are there, there are these human factors that you have to consider and be wary about, yeah. And humans are involved in the plant not only during operation but the entire life cycle, from design, commissioning, operate, maintaining, commissioning, decommissioning. So we are involved. So maknanya we bring in that human factor, that human I wouldn't say human unreliability, human factors into all parts of the operations of facility. Yeah. So that is why when an accident says it's due to human error, I always ask, okay, what's underlying that? Because human error normally, I mean, there could be genuine issues, but there could also be some systemic issues that beyond just deeper than that. Yeah? So human is always a factor that we need to manage. Yeah? So organizations must recognize that you cannot expect humans to be perfect 100% of the time. You have to maintain processes to help. That is why companies have processes, permit to work, PTA, and management of change. You know? All this process is trying to help people do the right things and lessen the possibility of errors. Because kalau tak ada proses, semua orang buat cara sendiri, lagilah banyak error kan. Tapi bila dia ada standardized form, standardized process, you try to manage human factors through standardized ways of doing things. Yeah? So whether PTW, PTA, MOC, startup process, the procedure, you know, all those are managing human factors. Yeah? And it's important because these are controls, and many of these controls are operated by humans. So, and what defines us, we are all individuals, we are all different. How we are brought up, our habits as individuals, the job that we play also plays a role in how we do things, and organizationally also, different companies will have different culture juga lah kan, yeah? So that all plays a role in terms of how we are. So now I know it's a bit fluffy, but I just want you to know that, you know, human factors is important when it comes to hazard identification, yeah. And that is why when you go to plant, you akan nampak certain people dia nampak banyak hazard, but certain people they akan walk through tak nampak apa-apa, yeah. That's because humans we are all different, yeah? But that's why we have this kind of training to help improve everyone's recognition of hazards and sensitivity of hazards, yeah. There's a video that I want to show very quickly. So have a look at the video. It's about unidentified hazards of confined space. But I want you to focus the video and your reflection more on where human error, no, I wouldn't say human errors, where humans missed the opportunity to make it safe. Yeah? How things were missed, how things could have been done better from a human behavior point of view. Yeah? So not so much process, don't talk about PMAP, race and so on. Talk about how humans could have behaved better or done better mindset-wise to try to find hazards and address them. Yeah? Tengok konteks lain sikit.
October 2nd, 2007. A terrible tragedy unfolded in the mountains 40 miles west of Denver, Colorado. 5 contract painters were trapped by a chemical fire deep inside a hydroelectric plant tunnel. The plant was owned by Xcel Energy, a major regional electric power company. The fire, involving combustible coatings and solvents inside the tunnel, blocked the only way out, an opening more than 1,400 feet away. There was no help available because the company did not have properly trained emergency responders standing by for such a rescue. For the workers, there was no escape. The Chemical Safety Board found that neither Xcel Energy nor its contractor, RPI Coating, had adequately evaluated the dangers of the work inside the tunnel.
The RPI contractors entered a confined space with highly flammable solvents, little training, and no emergency plan. From the moment they entered the tunnel, the stage was set for disaster.
Xcel Energy's Cabin Creek hydroelectric plant is located in a remote mountainous area approximately 6 miles from Georgetown, Colorado. A 4,000-foot tunnel, known in the industry as a penstock, was slightly inclined at the bottom and extremely steep at the top. The penstock carried water between the upper and lower reservoirs. At the bottom, water flowed through large turbines to generate electricity. Over the years, the penstock lining deteriorated. In 2007, Xcel Energy contracted with RPI, an industrial painting company, to recoat a large steel section of the penstock near the power plant and lower reservoir. Work began at the site in September. The penstock is a unique confined space that is difficult to enter and exit. Before the project began, a door was cut into the lower section to provide access for workers and their equipment. On the morning of the accident, October 2nd, RPI workers prepared to begin the coating operation by bringing approximately 10 gallons of a highly flammable solvent called methyl ethyl ketone, or MEK, into the penstock. Some of the solvent was used to clean the equipment and hoses before starting the work. Shortly after 1 p.m., 11 workers began coating a section of wall located more than 1,400 feet inside the penstock. To apply the new 2-part epoxy coating, workers used a specialized sprayer. Base and hardener were mixed and then sprayed onto the walls. But the workers immediately encountered problems. The epoxy was not adhering evenly to the surface. The workers flushed the hoses and spray wands with MEK each time a problem arose. But despite their efforts, they could not get the epoxy to adhere evenly. An RPI foreman decided to clean and remove the sprayer from the penstock. The crew began cleaning out all of the equipment and hoses using MEK. A worker brought in more of the flammable solvent to aid in the cleaning. Some workers noticed the strong odor of MEK as the vapor spread through the work area. At approximately 2 p.m., the vapor was ignited, most likely by static electricity inside one of the spraying machine hoppers. A flash fire erupted. Burning solvent burst from the hopper onto a nearby worker, catching his sleeve on fire. The flames spread quickly, engulfing the open buckets of MEK nearby. 5 workers were blocked from escaping the penstock by the intense fire. The trapped men shouted desperately for fire extinguishers, but there were none inside the penstock. Workers on the other side of the burning equipment ran the 1,400 feet to the entrance to locate fire extinguishers. One worker notified the control room operator to call 911. The 5 trapped workers could do nothing but wait and hope. Inside the penstock, the nearby buckets of epoxy and MEK burst into flames. The The trapped men fled deeper into the penstock to escape the smoke. They used their radios to communicate with the workers outside, imploring them for help. Workers repeatedly attempted to fight the fire with portable extinguishers, but they were forced to turn back by the intense heat and thick black smoke. Inside the penstock, the workers continued to wait for rescue. At 2:11 p.m., county emergency personnel arrived at the site in response to the 911 call, but they had not been informed about the hazardous conditions within the penstock, and they were not equipped or trained to attempt such a technically demanding rescue. The trapped workers were instructed to move even deeper into the mountain, but they stopped when they reached the inclined section, which was too steep to climb. They told responders they were struggling to breathe as smoke filled the penstock. Some of the responders entered the penstock on an all-terrain vehicle, but the dense smoke blocked their path, and they had to retreat after just 200 feet. The responders then drove up the winding road that rose over 1,000 feet to the upper reservoir. There, they lowered air bottles and respirators through a small hatch, hoping these would reach the trapped workers below. Finally, at 3:40 p.m., a specialized rescue unit arrived from Denver, some 40 miles to the east. A short time later, a specialized mine rescue unit arrived. The teams prepared for entry, but it was too late. The 5 workers inside the penstock had died of smoke inhalation over an hour earlier. The following day, responders found their bodies near the bottles of air.
So all the videos I shared this one is true stories, eh? So it's at least I think that we know banyak lagi insiden yang jadi yang kita tak sampai news kadang-kadang. So yeah, so it's a very unfortunate incident. Yeah, but it does happen unfortunately in various industries. Now, going back to what I said earlier, so have maybe 2 or 3 minutes think about what happened there. But this time think about what did people who planned the work fail to identify, and what did the people who was doing the work fail to identify before the work. Okay? Because in this incident, it's really about planning. At the time dah tak boleh buat apa dah. Yeah? It's really about how you plan for it. That's why I mentioned yesterday, planning is the most important part about hazard identification. By the time it happens, dia dah terlambat dah. Yeah? So think about what did people fail to do. Yeah? And what exactly. Contohnya, if you think they failed to identify a hazard, what is the hazard that you're referring about? Yeah? They failed to prepare a control. What control do you think was forgotten to be identified? Yeah? So a bit more on people side lah. Yeah? Right, take 2-3 minutes. You can discuss with your team members. You can think individually as well. I leave it to you. Then I'll get a few people to share your thoughts lah after you think about it. So just to recap, I don't just talk about what controls were missing. You know, what were people's behaviors or mindset that could have caused that complacency, you know. Go a bit on the human side. Yeah. Okay, let's give 2 more minutes. Then kita hear some top 10. Alright, okay. So now I open the floor. I won't go by table. Siapa-siapa yang nak share your thoughts? Anyone? Raka, of course, akan ada. So siapa nak start? Anyone? Any thoughts? Kam, siapa nak mula? Lah, Akam.
Okay, untuk human factor or behavior, first of all is bad planning lah.
Bad planning.
Because only one exit and enter, so should be ada alternative lain untuk keluar dan masuk. Then lack of awareness, because out of 5 workers, only one yang sedar the power of ABK, but somehow doing nothing lah. And another one is miscommunication. Maybe the survivor yang call emergency team doesn't really state the detail of accident.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why take longer time to save
The company, the fire brigade that came wasn't prepared
Yeah.
to rescue a ventilator. Yeah.
So that's all.
Right. Thank you. 50 points there. Yeah. Okay. Who's next? Anyone? Ah, takkan tak ada. Ini Chan terakhir nak dapat point ni. Kiket. Ada kiket, okey.
The human factor that may contribute to the incident is the worker awareness of their surrounding. Since they're bringing electrical equipment inside the tunnel, so they should be aware that flash fire could happen due to static electricity. Since they don't have the proper training for the situation like this one, so may have contributed to the incident.
Yep. Boleh, agree. Okay, thank you. 50 points for you.
So for the human factor, as for the worker, it was told that all of them are not competent enough for the work. So maybe must have one senior member for the work before the work schedule. And then as for the worker, it seems that they are not prepared for any emergency, such as bring SCBA tank for oxygen purpose because there is confined space. And then other than that, we can see that the worker, the client, not prepared for emergency team. So the emergency team are very late come to the accident. That's all. Thank you.
Ada? Okay.
For us, actually, they have one. As you can see from the video, Beli Gitara, they don't recognize the chemical hazard of the MEK.
Yep.
So they know that the MEK is or maybe they are untrained, ada behavior yang diorang abaikan lah sebenarnya. Macam MEK, they know that MEK is flammable materials, but they still bring in. So should be tak perlu buat sebab MEK as stated in the video actually for cleaning only. So it can put outside. If they want to do cleaning, they can bring the tools outside and do the cleaning outside. So the one can eliminate the hazard of the fire apa semua lah. Then the other one is working position. So it is important to know where is the escape route if you're inside the confined space. You know where to get out or where to run if you have something happen inside the confined space. In this situation, diorang punya tools block the way to going out. So sepatutnya kalau kita masuk, kita letak tool lebih dalam daripada manusia lah. So if anything happens with tools or anything happen inside, then the human or personally lebih cepat keluar lah. And because they are near to the escape route or exit. So I just want to add another one lah, ELSA, Emergency Life Support Apparatus. Should be any confined space work, we bring the ELSA, sama macam SCBA lah, tapi ELSA is more portable. Portable. It is a personal escape tool lah, tools. I think that's all. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Good job. 50 points. Yeah, so I think you got the gist of it lah. Yeah, so actually, I think the main failing here is there's two things could have happened. One, they really did not identify the hazard of MEK. Yeah, but you can argue that there were so many of them, and I'm also sure that itu tak termasuk lagi the client, the owner side lagi kan. I'm sure they knew that they are bringing MEK. Yeah. So, but it could be that they really didn't recognize the hazard of MEK, that it could be flammable. But if you also notice that there was this change that happened in the work, kan they were spraying but the spray tu macam tak melekat kan, so that you require them to do more cleaning of the nozzles, so they brought in even more MEK. So there's a change, from the plan. So daripada mungkin 2-3 bucket aja, they had much more buckets. So that's why I mentioned earlier, when there is a change versus planning, you must always take a step back and reassess balik. Because you did not reassess masa planning, so the change may result in hazards that you did not identify masa planning. Yeah. So in this case, they really did not take the time to take step back and reassess the impact of the change, of trying to manage the work lah, yeah, trying more MEK and so on. So it's about how I would maybe not to say complacent, but maybe how comfortable they are by taking risk juga lah. Sekarang it's also about how people take risk kan. Ini kecil je tak apa, tak ada masalah, you know. But again, we don't know really lah, you know, because it's difficult to say on hindsight. And another one I also agree is that whatever it is, there were still failings on planning. Because obviously the emergency response wasn't planned for at all. Langsung tak ada, ya, macam tak ada langsung, ya. So because plan stock ni memang nak buat 2 entry memang susah. Pasal it's a long pipe from up to down kan. That dia memang deep in the mountains. So the only way out is a good rescue plan actually. Yeah, so they didn't plan at all for that. Even the base case, even kalau dia bawa sikit MEK pun dah kena ada rescue plan. So they are deep inside kan. So obviously the planners were complacent to not prepare a rescue plan lah. Yeah. This is very obvious that rescue plan kena ada. Very obvious. So this is, and you would argue kenapa dia tak nampak rescue plan perlu kan? Benda tu bukannya kerja kecil, and they are deep. Dia kata apa, 1,400 feet inside. Itu dalam apa, dalam 500-600 meter. Dalam tu, deep inside the mountain kan. So you would argue kenapa dia tak fikir. And to me it's about behaviour jugalah. Kenapa tak fikir, kenapa tak think about it, yeah? So I guess the point here is that people know you need a rescue plan, you need to identify hazard and so on. But do people actually do it when the time comes? And that requires the mindset, behavior and so on. Yeah? Because even if you know, but if you don't do, then it will not make a difference. Things can still go wrong. Yeah? So that is the emphasis of this video lah. Yeah? And whatever that we learn today is really about then doing it. Because doing it will then make a difference. Knowing alone is not going to make much difference. It's just doing it. Yeah? Alright. Okay, anything to add? No, alright. Memang ada cerita sedih kan, but we try to learn lah from what has happened. Yeah. This is probably one of the last slides. Yeah. So on human factors, yeah. So between different persons, even in this room, we are all different in terms of how we look at risk. Someone bila buat risk assessment mungkin kata medium, another one mungkin kata low or high. Yeah, because our risk perception is different. Yeah? So we are different in many ways. One, risk perception is how we perceive risk. How comfortable are we to take risk? Macam bawa kereta lah, kalau masa muda-muda 18 tahun baru dapat lesen, macam mana kan? Sama lah saya pun dulu. Tapi bila dah ada anak, 3-4 orang kat belakang, your risk appetite changes kan? So it's not only about age, it's individuals. Yeah? So your risk perception differs not only by age but by who you are, how you brought up, you know, it's not only about age. Yeah? Orang yang 40-50 pun ada juga bawa kan, so it's not only about age. So it's about how you're aware about hazards and how you take appropriate measures when you manage risk. Yeah, how you manage risk. Yeah? One is risk attitude. How you use your knowledge about risk to make decisions. You tahu risk ni high, you should stop lah. Sampai some people kata, tak apalah, I think tak akan jadi kot, you know, jalan juga. Yeah? So it's that risk attitude, that what actions you take when you're faced with risk. Different people will make different decisions. Yeah? So that's the reality of it. But that is why organizations, they are the risk matrix, they are the guidance on how to do what to do, you know. Because they say, okay guys, no matter siapa you are, kalau risk tu merah, jangan proceed. Those are the guidance that normally companies give. So that they try to manage the differences in people. And that is why companies guna risk matrix, because they try to standardize how people assess risk. Yeah, kalau tidak, dia tak ada, dia very loose. Yeah? Risk analysis, again, different people have different abilities to analyze the risk. Some people baru belajar, some people dah buat bertahun-tahun, so dia a bit more mature, yeah. But the idea of this training is hopefully I've equipped you with some basic knowledge on how to do risk analysis, yeah. It's still very basic, but at least it will allow you to make a start. Remember, the basic simple je. It's about likelihood and severity of consequence. That is the factor that makes up risk. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. So that hopefully will let you start getting better in terms of risk analysis. And risk analysis ni is not only about safety. It's also about reliability, operation. Can use for multiple things as well. But at least for this course, we're talking about safety. And risk competence is also about people's ability to understand risk. So contohnya macam we were talking about hydroelectric dams kan. Couple of weeks back, my first time doing hazard identification untuk hydroelectric dams. First time, saya tak pernah buat kerja untuk dam, tapi itu first time saya buat untuk dam. And this dam, few dams dekat, the client was in New Zealand lah, doing virtual. Saya tak pernah kerja dam. So my understanding of their hazard is very low. Tapi I know the methodology on how to do risk assessment. So I came to provide methodology, but they came and brought in the hazard knowledge. So you need to know what you know, but you need to be aware also what things that you need help with. But saya dah belajar, so sekarang saya dah faham lah what is spend stocks semua over the last few weeks. But so you need to be aware about hazards, and if you think you're not very strong in terms of assessing hazards on chemicals ke, on biological ke, and so on, get people who have the competence to analyse those risks. Yeah, because that's important. Chemical especially, and especially chemical for long-term exposure. Saya rasa kita tak, even me, we sometimes we need people who are trained medically to provide you guidance on long-term health impact exposure chemicals. Normally that one you get inputs lah, yeah. Because we are more familiar with short-term impact. Long-term impact we need experienced medical professionals. So yeah, so these 4 factors, each of us here are different, yeah. So we need to recognize them, but we need to see how to work together and adopt the methods that I've shared, risk matrix approach that I've provided, and so on. To try to do things as similar as we can lah. Yeah. But bear in mind that we are all different, so there will be some difference that we have to manage. And that is why you have to work with each other and support each other. So how can we do to... Okay, before that, let's talk about this. Siapa pernah dengar this term normalization? Pernah? Okay, apa maksud normalization?
Macam ni lah, dah biasa rutin.
Dah biasa rutin.
Apa berlaku.
So masih dah normalize lah benda tu. Dah comfort zone, ya. Complacent, ya. Dia dah biasa. So I pernah do one of my big boss dulu, about 10 years ago ke. Dia pernah cerita macam ni, dia kata if you go to work site, you pass by something that's not right. Kalau you nampak orang buat kerja tak pakai fire blanket, first time you nampak, you tak tegur, you lalu. You nampak tapi you tahu benda salah, tapi you decide, tak apalah, jalan je kan. Second time, you mungkin nampak lagi. Third time, you mungkin nampak lagi. But after 4, 5, 6 kali you lalu, lama-lama because you dah you biar, you dah akan terbiasa, you dah tak nampak dah. Yeah. Because that's what normalization is all about. You dah biasakan diri accept that subpar punya practice, and you tak intervene. So quietly you pun dalam yourself, you dah terima benda tu macam biasa. Yeah? So this was a Dutch guy masa was with Shell. So what he told us is, as whenever you feel an unease in you, you see something that's not right, the only way that you can fight normalization is you don't let it go. Nampak benda tu salah, straight away go, guys, kenapa tak ada blanket? Jangan tinggal. Nampak benda yang tak betul je, intervene. Pasal kalau you biar, lama-lama you yourself akan normalize. Yeah? But as long as you continue to maintain the right standards, you akan protect yourself from normalization. Yeah? So I thought that was very good sharing from that boss of mine lah. So that's normalization. You must really protect yourself. And I would say normalization is not only about others, it's about you have to protect yourself. Protect you akan normalize. Yeah? So that's very important. Secondly, what do you understand by fast brain and slow brain? Ada buku cerita this one, saya pun lupa. Okay. Anyway, apa nama title dia? Yeah, but yeah. So but it's a way of thinking, yeah. First time dengar. Okay. So fast brain, slow brain ni macam ni. Ya. Kadang kita kat plan, kita buat kerja, kita nak buat benda cepat kan. Bukan cepat, kita nak buat benda tu as fast as we can lah. Because pelan tengah jalan and so on. So in a way our mind is already dah almost automatic. Kita buat ni, kita buat tu, pagi masuk shift, kita pergi kat site, kita buat ni, you know, it's like routine tu dah normal, yeah. So the in by nature as humans, when we are using our fast brain, we don't analyze detail. Kita in our mind we are focused upon doing things, not analyzing things. That's what we call fast brain. Kita punya focus is just doing, nak buat. Bukannya kita sengaja nak be unsafe. We are focused on doing things. Yeah? Now slow brain is when you stop and take 5 or take a step back. When you start have time to let your brain slow down, you then start analyzing. Yeah? So there's a difference between fast brain and slow brain. Slow brain you can analyze better. Fast brain, when we are busy doing things, we by nature of how we work, we don't analyze deeply. Yeah? Now how we apply this in our work when it comes to safety is, when you see something wrong, you have to take 5. I'm sure you pernah dengar take 5 kan?
Yes.
Kenapa people say take 5 is because they want you transition from fast brain to slow brain. They want you to switch. That's why take 5 is important, because you need time to your brain to slow down and analyze. That's why people say take 5. Yeah. So I'm sure take 5 pernah dengar, tapi this is the reason behind take 5. They want you to switch your brain from fast brain or fast thinking to slow brain or slow thinking. So, and in safety that's very important, because when we can only identify hazard and so on when we are in our slow thinking, slow brain. Yeah. Bila fast brain kita focus on doing things. Nama? Saya kau bukan take 5. Tak kira. Right, so that's slow brain and fast brain. But there's a few things others. This is probably one of my last slide lah, yeah, but I want to leave you with a bit more on soft side of things. Yeah. Ini kira sharing my experience lah, yeah, dalam kerja ni. So take 5 ada cerita, yeah, about apply slow thinking, because you need to do that to think and analyze. Yeah. That one as humans, I can tell you from my experience memang kena. Yang kalau tidak kita tak ada masa nak think. Sometimes when we are faced with issues, kita tak sure, ni okey ke tak, it's very grey kan. Very few things in life is black and white kan. Most things are a bit grey, and that's the nature of how we do things and in our business. If you can clarify and you're confident that it's okay, proceed. But if you are unsure, I always say to people, your default position should be conservative, be on the safer side. Yeah. If you don't think you can identify the issue, you can't resolve it, get help. But don't proceed with things if you're not sure or if you feel that uncomfortable. Because I believe if you dah kerja long enough, your instinct is telling you something if you are comfortable. So trust your instincts. Yeah? So if you're uncomfortable, be more conservative. Because instinctively you know what something is not right lah. Yeah? So trust your instincts. If you're not comfortable, stop work. That's very important. Yeah, I hope OSIM has a stop work policy. So the point is, anyone should be able to stop work. Yeah. If you're not comfortable, if you think things are not going not right, you should stop work. Yeah. Because that's the only way you can get people to take 5 and take a step back. Ini pun tadi ada mention, never walk by something that doesn't feel right. Yeah, like I mentioned yesterday. Because if you do, over while you will get normalized. Yeah. So just a reminder, never walk by something that's not right, because over time you will be normalized. I can guarantee you that lah. Yeah? Confirm. Work in teams. When it comes to safety, especially when it comes to grey matters, the more people that you have to discuss with, the better. Because you need that different inputs, and because we are all different, we have different risk perceptions and so on. When we have a team discussion, we have more inputs. That's why PTA is a group team event kan. Orang buat few people kan. PTA, JSA, HAZOP, HIREC, semua dia buat in a team, bukan seorang-seorang. Kalau dia buat seorang, something is not right. Because when you have a team, you can compensate each other. Siapa yang ada risk perception lain, siapa yang risk analysis dia lain, you help each other to come to common sense. Look out for each other, sama lah, because we have different behaviors and so on. We have to help each other. And if you're not sure how to do things, use structured approach. That's why your company have PTA, PTW and so on. It is there to guide you. Procedure, it is there to help you. Yeah? So they are not there to make your life difficult. I know it can be difficult. Yeah? But the real reason why they're there is it is there to help you do the right things. Yeah. Even though I know it can be difficult, but it is there to help you. Yeah. So you have to make it work lah. Yeah. Because it is there to help you at the end of the day. Yeah. Ini untuk pekerja-pekerja baru. Banyak accidents actually jadi dengan orang baru ni. Because dia orang baru belajar lah kan, baru nak learn about the hazards. Baru nak get used to how to do things on site, or nak kenal orang and so on. So, I don't know when kat OSI, mesti kalau sama dekat PRIS, bila orang kerja baru, dia kena pakai topi orange untuk setahun. Ada? Saya dulu kalau kerja baru, kena pakai topi orange setahun. Dia tahu, ini orang baru. Tapi bukannya dia sengaja nak point out. Dia tahu kalau orang topi orange, kita kena tolong dia. That's the mindset. Nampak topi orange, kita kena tolong dia. That's the mindset. Yeah? It's about helping newcomers. Because orang baru, dia baru nak belajar hazard, silin semua, dia baru belajar. Ya, silin apa benda kan, tak tahu. So orang baru dia kena jaga. Pasal dia ability to identify hazard, the ability to risk assess is still young. Yeah? So, and it's not about age. Even orang yang experience tapi baru kerja in your industry pun mungkin same thing. Yeah? Macam bila saya join Shell, walaupun dah kerja 15 tahun, saya masih kena pakai topi orange. Pasti kata you are new to the site. So doesn't matter. Yeah? Jangan overconfident lah. Kita kalau orang kita ni semua boleh. Malaysia boleh kan. So be prudent lah. Yeah? Be prudent in whenever you manage this. And always follow procedures. I always tell people procedures are there to be followed. As long as you follow procedures, you should be safe. Yeah. It's when you depart from procedures you put yourself at risk. Yeah. Tapi if the procedures are not right, get someone to review it and correct it lah. Yeah? But you should always follow procedures. I think last but not least, kalau you jumpa benda that's not right, address it. Don't let it simmer. Kalau sometimes benda tu orang lain kena buat kan, what we can do is kita escalate and inform lah and follow up. Yeah? Kadang-kadang benda tu luar kuasa kita, tapi kita highlight, at least we highlight. Yeah? And we try to follow up. Ini semua orang kata tip-tip lah, tips over the last years I've been working.